Yes, I got a haircut. So normally from this point, pretty much running through to the end of the term, we're going to be doing like one big long running example of, various ways of and improving on a password login system, right? We're going to build that up right from scratch. It's very useful to understand how one of those works thoroughly. So it's going to be a running example for, some time. Now, prior to our, acquisition of databases, I know nobody can take me seriously without the beard, right? No. Prior to us learning about databases, if you listen to my voice, you'll see it is still me.
But there's no bow tie.
Yeah, there's a organization for both out.
I didn't get much sleep last night. The kid was up with teething like all night, waking up every like hour and a half, so forgive me, I'm not wearing a bow tie today either. This is my sweater of I'm not wearing a bow tie today sweater. Normally you have to see me outside of term to see me in this. So that being said, this is actually getting a little hot here. What was I talking about? You distracted me. Passwords, yes. So prior to databases, we may have been tempted to save a bunch of passwords in a JSON file or something like that. You could make this work, right? It's possible, but it's far and away not the best way of going about it. We are going to use databases to create a credentials table, and we're going to use that credentials table to basically serve one of two web pages. We have the login page itself, and then we have a dashboard page, which is supposed to be shown to a logged-in user rather than the login page. Fairly simple. The dashboard for us won't really do very much. It will just say, "Hello, you are a user. Congratulations. Would you like to log out?" So if everybody, this is going to be practical class. So if everybody could please launch all of the softwares. Okay. Oh, I'm not a student. That's the problem. I'm not a filthy pleb. No offense to present company. Oh, they've got it. Love it when they change the screen thing. Yeah. There we go. All right. XAMPP. Please launch. Launch, please. Please and thank you. Very good. And that should improve things. Although is this too dark? No. I get the impression that students would do this in like an absolutely dark room if I let them. But for considerations of eye strain, there should at least be a few lights on in the room. Yeah. I had the dark mode is best mode conversation with a couple of normies recently, and they were like, "Really? Dark mode reduces eye strain?" I'm I'm like, yeah. I thought this was common knowledge. I guess it's not quite as common knowledge as I thought it was. So let's please start up our Apache and MySQL servers. Yes, yes, yes. If we could please make an index page in htdocs. -11-05. Index.php. There we go. PHP opener. There we go. Well, instead of echoing it, yeah, let's just do that for now. There we go. Load her up. There we go. I always, whenever you're starting a new project in PHP, recommend just starting off with a hello world to start, because if you're not even getting this much working, you probably have a server-related problem, and not much else will work if you can't even get this working. So, good place to start. So let us turn our consideration to the database. Now, the database is going to need a table for credentials, and it will need to exist in the first place. This is slight review. We were exploring these concepts last class, but the way that you access phpMyAdmin is one of two ways. Either with the admin button in the XAMPP control panel, or localhost at the correct port number /phpMyAdmin. This, incidentally, is the method that you must use to access phpMyAdmin on CS Unix. With CS Unix, you don't have an XAMPP control panel because it's not XAMPP. You must access it using this URL. Please write it down. So, under our databases, let's make a new one. I'll maximize this for the time being. New database. Let's call this, I don't know, social media site. Sure. In the configuration, you have this strange drop down that states that the language of the database will be Latin/Swedish, but don't worry about that. It's a character set, not a language selection. So just leave it in its default and everything will be fine. Don't worry, your database will not automatically translate everything into Swedish. No? Did it have you something other than Swedish?
Mine UTF-8 and before general.
Well, that does seem better than Swedish, but that's okay. Either way it works. Just stick to, the general programming advice applies. If you stick to ASCII characters, you're probably not going to go wrong, right?
To be fair, a database written in Latin might scare some potential hackers away.
It's true. Yeah. But only if the table names are like, Latin prayers of exorcism, right? So you want to create a table. There are no tables yet. We will create a table for credentials. For the time being, let's give that 3 columns. We now set the table schema. So what attributes would an entry in a credentials table have? Username is definitely one of them. Username, password. What am I thinking for the third one? Yep, a primary key. Because basically every single time you make a table, you probably want one. So even if you don't want one, you probably want one. So it's just a good kind of cautious thing to do. ID. Username, password. Both username and password will be varchars. Let's say no more than 30 characters for a username, and because I like especially long passwords, I'm going to hit 160 characters as a password. For the primary key, if you click auto incrementing, it gives you this dialog. Don't touch anything, just click go. If you touch anything, you screw it up. I've tried this before. It just likes its default values, so just let it have its default values and everything will work. Go. There you go. And there we have it. Very good, very good. Save. Very good. Oh, errors. Ignore. Let's take a look and see if it worked despite the errors. It did. So don't worry about it. Did everybody get that far? We've got, no?
No, please back up a little bit.
Not easily. What, is there a specific question that you had? Or here, let me just take one.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got that.
Those varchars don't have to specify how big they are. I use a virtual. I use this for teaching. That's and if you scroll over this also implementing checkbox, then you can go to select goal and throw. And now just click go at the bottom. Good. Question? Oh, you can just really? Try the whole thing over again. Go. Very strange. Okay. Okay. Still having trouble? have to click start? Yeah, you have to start the MySQL server, the second one there. Should work better now. Because you just have access to enter arbitrary SQL queries, you can just do it that way, I presume. So, create table, credentials, in my case 2. Int primary ID. I'm not sure how to set it up auto-incrementing from the command line. Varchar. Oh wait, am I missing? I think that. Do you do it backwards in SQL? Yeah, you do it backwards in SQL.
Like this database doesn't have a table yet.
Are you trying to drop the database? So click on the database. Just click on the database.
And we're just going to check to see if this works. Oop, error.
Let's go down.
Syntax.
Boo. Oh, you're going to make me look up how to do it, aren't you?
Like from the table, I think. Yeah.
Oh, operations. So under operations, you can drop the database right there. There you go.
It's going to be one of those classes. Let's see if this works. No.
That line one.
Near username. It doesn't like primary. Huh? Okay, so it didn't like primary. Maybe it had to be like primary key. Maybe I'm just missing a keyword. So there we have it. Here is, here's an SQL statement that will do the same thing. Incidentally, a thing that you will get used to in this SQL system is it likes backticks around attribute names. So sometimes it'll work if it doesn't have that, but sometimes it won't. So the cautious thing is to include the backticks around attribute names. Yes?
You have to type primary space key.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's correct, yeah.
And
Primary.
in increment, you get to auto underscore increment.
You say, sorry, what?
Auto underscore increment.
Oh,
Auto increment.
okay. So like this. Primary key auto increment. Like that?
Yep.
There we go. Which honestly, I think is kind of easier than using the form, but this is the classic, you know, GUI versus CLI debate, you know. But yeah, so there you go. If it didn't work before, perhaps it will work now. Can anybody confirm that this works where the other one didn't? Yeah? Okay. Good. Wonderful. Wonderful. So we now have a table, ID, username, and password. I'm going to show you how to insert information into this table from this interface. However, I will add the caveat that this is a web application. Normally, your data is not originating from you, the author of the program. It is good to be able to add entries to this table, but there will be a point that we pass as we discuss this stuff, after which we won't even be able to fabricate data for this table. Once we are using hashed passwords, you can't just fabricate a password hash, you're going to have to go through the middleware. And we are the authors of the middleware. Sound good? All right, so performing an insert operation. There is an insert dialog, but I don't use it because I find, I used it once and it like added something twice and I was like very, very miffed. So that was enough for me. So you don't have to include ID because it's auto-incrementing. My recommendation is to use the templates that it provides. Thank you. So the place that this is going, eventually we're going to be encoding these SQL queries into PHP. This is intolerable.
It's dying. The warranty has expired.
All right. When you do things in PHP, it is also my recommendation that you use these buttons to generate a template and then copy that template over into PHP. It makes it go a bit faster. It includes the correct backtick quote instead of single quote, which denotes a string, right? It's nice. Just use it, right? So anyway, into the table, I wish to place a username of Mr. Krabs and a password, money. Go. That was successful. Going to the Browse tab, you can see user ID 1, Mr. Krabs, password, money. So far, so good. Did everybody get that far? Thumbs up if you got that far. Thumbs down if you're having trouble. Oh, just delete ID. Yeah. Good. So, our next objective is simply to get a select query going that displays the contents of the database. This is your database hello world, right? Now, I must include a caveat. This is a credentials table. Never ever echo the contents of your credentials table in a PHP script, please. Hopefully it's obvious why. But this is where we're going to start it with. So, going to PHP now. My recommendation, you remember that little code block I recommended everybody bookmark? Well, take it, copy it, and paste it. There we go. So, the objective of this piece of code, can you tell I'm like not even of a mind to make a joke about how unreliable the projector is being. This line will create the database handle object and store it in a variable called DBH. This can be thought of very similarly to a file handle created with fopen. However, it's not a connection to a file, it's a connection to a database, assuming it works. So, because this is XAMPP, localhost is correct. However, database name will be whatever name we gave the database. This is something you look up. In our case, I called it social media site. Notice it's all lowercase. There we go. Now, we now have to provide the username and password for the database. On CS Unix, the username will be your CS Unix username. Your password is located in your home directory on CS Unix. I'll show you how to get that later. But when you're connecting to XAMPP, your username is root, R-O-O-T, all lowercase, and your password is an empty string, which, as we know, is the most secure of all passwords, because who's going to think to try it? Answer, that's the first one they try, every time. Another really, really awful password, admin.
How about password?
Password is the worst password, ironically enough.
How about the number 1?
The number 1 is a very, very bad password. The number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not as bad a password as the number 1, but still an exceptionally bad password.
Well, incorrect.
Also bad, because it can be easily cracked by a dictionary attack. Basically any word, right? If you just take a word out of the dictionary, provide that as your password, that's, subject to a dictionary attack. That being said, a recent trend in passwords has been to take a collection of English words and run them together in a small nonsensical sentence. You generally end up with a fairly long password this way, so it's inherently unbrute forceable. And if you perform a few slight alterations, you can disrupt dictionary attacks as well. But, if you consider the number of, you remember how we had to talk about cryptography? And the number of characters affects how many possibilities there are? If you replace characters with words, right? How many words are there in the English language? Right? That's something we can look up, right? So the AI thinks, and let's just take it at face value, that there are 170,000 English words. So it doesn't take very many of them to get a very, very large search space, right? There are 8.35 times 10 to the power of 20 combinations of 4 English words. That's pretty good, cryptographically speaking. And English words have the advantage that they are a lot more rememberable to human beings than, random sequences of characters. Like, the best password you'll ever see is 32 random characters. Unfortunately, memorizing 32 random characters is beyond most people's ability, unless you have an eidetic memory or something like that. right? This is why people generally use password managers. When you have a password manager, you don't have to remember the password, so you can set it to something that's inherently unrememberable. But if you have to actually remember your password, making it a short collection of English words that kind of make a sentence but don't is, well, it's like current best practice-ish, right? Like if you look at, for example, the security phrases for cryptocurrency wallets, these are done with a sequence of dictionary words rather than, like your recovery phrase is an actual phrase, right? A rather long one in the case of those. But yeah, make sense? Yeah. There's more to say on the subject of passwords, but let's keep moving. So, yes. So in theory, this connects us to the database. We now need to learn how to submit an SQL query. Once again, I will hold up my marker in such a fashion and say, I am about to say something that, if not listened to, will certainly lose you grades. All right? This is the only method I want to see for doing this. All right? I don't want to see any other method than this. This is for security and filtering reasons. Okay? You can, of course, alter the syntax a bit should you want to, but in general, I expect you to use this method. So, our query is a string encoded in PHP. It is an SQL command. Now, in our case, for just right now, we're not trying to do anything fancy. Yes? Oh, yeah, certainly. Better? Yeah. I can go a bit more. That good? It is a rather deep classroom, this one, isn't it? Yeah. Within these quotes, you place your SQL query. For now, we shall do the hello world of SQL queries. Select star from table name credentials. You will find that in this course, we stick to quite basic SQL. We do nothing nearly so complicated as group by having, we're not even really going to join any tables together, right? We stick to basic CRUD operations. We feed the query into a method called prepare. The return result of the prepare method is a so-called statement. Although, according to our database knowledge derived from CO859, this should be thought of as a cursor. All right? That's what we're doing right now. We're setting up a cursor in that sense. Okay? So, we prepare the query. That creates a statement / cursor. So far, so good? We then execute it. The return result of executing it is a success or failure Boolean. If the query executed successfully with no error, this method returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. This is one of those annoying situations where a veteran PHP programmer will wrap this thing inside of an if statement predicate, right? A person who thinks they're good at coding will do this. And slightly less disconcertingly, perhaps that. In either case, this is bad practice, because that is a rare mechanic, right? If you want your code to be clearly understood, it's okay to use a few extra lines. You don't have to be a show-off, you don't have to be a smart aleck, right? Okay. So perhaps this operation succeeded. The question we now have, how do we retrieve items from this operation? This thing is a cursor. These return results are stored inside of the statement object. We must call a method on the statement object to retrieve our information. Statement fetch all. There we go. Now, we need to provide an option here. PHP likes to deal with either associative arrays or objects. We need to specify which. There we go. So, the way you do this, and this is introducing a new operator, PDO double colon fetch underscore assoc for associative. Do I have any C++ programmers in the crowd?
This is supposed to be some kind of namespace resolution thing?
Thank you very much, yes. So, the double colon is a namespace resolution operator. Essentially what it's saying is the PDO namespace, which is basically just a way of grouping objects and variables. The PDO namespace contains this, this enumeration value. Please use this from here and not from somewhere else, right? The purpose of a namespace is to prevent conflicts between names. So if some other library has defined fetch assoc, which might or might not be the case, if I left this part out, it would be an ambiguous reference. But because I've specified that this must come from the PDO library or the PDO namespace, it's no longer an ambiguous reference. Does that make sense? This guy's kind of got a little bit of a funny article. So there you go. The scope resolution operator, also called Pa'amayim Nakudatayim, or in simpler terms, the double colon, is a token that allows access to a constant static property or static method of a class or one of its parents. There you go. There's even a comment on the strange name of the operator. That's what the Zend team decided to call it. It actually does mean double colon in Hebrew. So there you go. Just an interesting little piece of trivia for you there. So anyway, the return results of this operation, fetch all, of course, fetches all of the records that were collected. There's also a fetch operation which fetches one record at a time. In the same way as with file I/O, you either read everything in all at once as one collected data structure, or you write a loop to go through every record in sequence. In my case, I generally default to fetch all. At any rate, the return result of that is the actual data itself. In my case, I'm going to do the simplest thing possible. Echo JSON encode data. Very good. Shall we see if it works? Oh! First try. Again, I absolutely do not recommend echoing the credentials out of your credential database to your web page. I don't recommend that at all. However, it is a good test to see that things are working. So, any questions? I suppose you guys want to see the code again.
Maybe the webmaster just really hates Mr. Krabs.
I mean, Mr. Krabs is kind of doing it to himself. Anybody who knows anything about Mr. Krabs could probably guess his password. Let me know when you guys are good. How many people got that working? You have a problem? Show me your code again. Line 17. You need a dollar sign right there.
Oh.
It's always something like that. I know. Well, like, as I said, I don't know, I was getting, I'm not sure how much longer I could have worn the vampire beard, but I can't shave it off completely, because otherwise I freak out my children. Oh, wait, assignment 4? Yeah, it's that combined with database access. Yep. Yep. Those cookies in assignment 3 should already be in the oven.
That's another
Ooh, go to XAMPP. Go to your code. Go up to your connection codes. Interesting, because that should be. Try restarting. Try restarting the server. Okie dokie. Shall we move on then? So, a login system, such as the one we are building, should have 4 primary operations. Would anybody like to guess what they are? Create, so create a new user, sure. I'm going to call that register. Anybody else? Log in, yeah, that's, yep, good. Log out, and
Update username or password.
that's a good one, but normally outside of the scope for what I do in class.
Okay.
Good exercise for your own time, though. Yes? Yeah. Deregister. Yeah. So, I'm going to do this for the time being in like classic PHP ways of doing things. We are going to see that this quickly becomes awful and unmanageable. All right? And that is going to motivate us to learn MVC architecture when we get there. All right? Because MVC is a much better way of organizing this. But I'm going to show you the way that native PHP wants you to do it. Right? So if you remember, PHP likes to be thought of in terms of file level modularity. Right? So if we have 4 operations, we should have 4 PHP scripts. Login, register, logout, deregister. Make sense? We should also have 2 HTML-ish pages. The login page and the dashboard page. Make sense? Okay. So, this actually shouldn't be index.php. This code will not appear in the final version, although we will copy pasta. So, number 1, very first thing. Any of these functions, any of these files which I write, which we are about to write, is going to need this block of code, right? So, we're going to take this and we're going to externalize it into a config file. All right? That way, everything can include the config file, and that just sets up the database for us. Make sense? So, please make a new PHP script. Call this connect.db, or sorry, connect.php. There we go. Take the connection code, plunk that in, and there we have it. We can now use this connection code anywhere. This has the added advantage. If we were taking this web application and porting it to anything but XAMPP, these credentials are going to have to change because they're specific to XAMPP. For example, migrating to CS Unix. If we have this little connection blurb at the top of each of our individual operation files, how many places do we have to fix it if we want to port it somewhere else? Right? we have to fix it in every single file. What we should really be doing is we should be thinking about this as if it were a config file and creating variables for these things as follows. Database name, social media site, username, although this may conflict, so I'm going to call it DB user, root, DB pass, empty string. This way, assuming we actually follow through on that, making the requisite substitutions. We have all of the values that we need to set for our configuration at the top of the file. This is generally good practice. Make sense? Very good. Any questions? Moving swiftly on. So now, let's make our login page. New file, save as login.html. Or I suppose this would have to be index itself, wouldn't it? Never mind, let's make it index.html. Should probably move the other file to call it something else. There we go. So I just took index.php and I renamed it to something else so that it doesn't conflict with the index.html page. Okay? So, index in HTML page. So, we're going to log in using a web form. The web form will have username, password, and a submit button. And of course, the action this form targets, there we go, action will be login.php. Now, big question. What method do we use to send username and credentials? We definitely use post and not get. Which one's the default? In a previous semester, I had the rather flattering remark from a student that they didn't really get what the point of HTML forms was before they saw this demonstration. So if you were kind of like, what the heck is the point of an HTML form? Here we go. All right. So input type is text. Name is username. We'll put a little username right there. Break, because I'm not doing it properly. Ah. Now, on the subject of input types, there is actually, you may remember, an input type specifically for passwords. This is an input box that is specially configured to asterisk over whatever it is the person has typed. In general, it's good to use that for passwords. I absolutely encourage you to do so. I am not going to use it for this example because I want you to see what's going on. Okay? So for that reason, we're not having as much anonymity as you would generally have. But in practice, there is a password input type, and you should use it. Okay? But I'm just going to leave this as text. We also need a submit button. Another thing that people sometimes figure out when they see me do this is that the quotes were not nearly so necessary as you might have supposed. In HTML, you only need quotes if the thing you're trying to assign as the value contains the separator character, which is space. So if it doesn't have a space in it, you don't need the quotes. There! I just saved you probably about 3 weeks of your time typing quotes out over the course of your careers. We do type a lot of quotes, you know. So, there you go. So let's see what this thing looks like. Login, username, and password. Very good. So far so good, but we don't have the PHP script. Let's make the PHP script. New, save, login.php. So, we need to receive 2 post parameters. Username, filter, input underscore post. Name is username, filter underscore sanitize underscore string. Ha! Gotcha! Nope. It's special chars.
You put a dot instead of a comma.
Oh, I do have a bot. Yeah,
Doing a bit of concatenation.
very good. Very good. Thank you for being on typo detail. So, there we go. We also include the thing that checks to make sure that the things were actually provided. Actually, false can't occur in a sanitized filter, so it's just null we're checking for. And if you really wanted to, you can also check, like, exclude cases where, you know, string length of the username is less than, 6. Safety conditions of this nature goes here, right? Echo malformed input. Probably want to do one of those for password as well. Make sense? So far so good? Alright, so far we've not done anything we haven't done before. So, a couple of things have to be true. Number one, in order to log into a session, what do we need to start? A session. Good. So, throw that in at the top. Start session.
How do a session start?
Oh, yeah, probably. Yes, it is. Now, we know we'll need to connect to the database, so what should we also include? Connect.php. Include connect.php.
Would this be required, or does it not really matter?
Yeah, it should be required. We can't really do anything without a database connection, right? Good. So, the next thing we need to think about, how do we go about checking to see if these values for username and password match at least one item in the database? Right? Well, we could write something like this. Select count star from credentials where username is equal to you and password is equal to e. We would then check to see what the count is, and if we have exactly one entry which meets this requirement, then we have, we have verified that there is one entry that matches in the database. Very good. And this is what we do. We write this code, we ship this code, we go home to our families, we have a good dinner, we play video games for a little bit before we fall asleep. We wake up the next morning to find the database has been breached and our company is dead. It's not even bankrupt, it's dead. The corporate entity composed of all of the people working together has perished. This is an SQL injection attack site. Now this is tricky because this is what you would do intuitively, right? Oh, I need to check to see if the username is equal to the one I got. Username equal to one I got. So it does, right? But it all depends on how these strings have been mixed together, right? Do I have time for the, yeah, I do have time for the SQL injection attack digression. Okay, strap on, kids. We're going to talk about strings. Strings, strings, strings. Doo, 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 doo. So, let's take an example. Let's say we have something like, the query that we had before. Password is equal to $P. That's our string. That gets sent to the database, that gets executed. Okay. But let's examine some strange values for P. Let's throw a little semicolon in there. So, okay. So, if we just throw anything in here without checking it first, what if P is something like, normally P would be something like, in the case of Mr. Krabs, money, right? But what if it's something like, I don't know, something like that. Is that brace going to get interpreted as programming code? Or is that brace going to get interpreted as part of the string? It really kind of depends, doesn't it? This should have quotes around it, by the way. Little escape quotes, just like that. If it's in quotes, then okay, maybe it won't. This is in quotes, so it's not part of the programming language. But what if I threw something like this in? Right? Notice this little guy? What happens when that guy gets put in? I end up with a parsed string that looks like this. Quote, badness, quote, error, quote, semicolon. This is a syntax error, to say the least. This part gets considered the string. This part is considered code. Now, if there's one thing you don't want, it's a user writing code into your SQL query. Okay, user who's trying to hack you enters something like this, sees that the system borks on a syntax error and is like, ooh, I might be able to do something with that. Consider the following little piece of nastiness. So what this guy gets turned into is equals poop, poopy password, or 1 is equal to 1, semicolon. You guys remember what double dash is in SQL? It's not one of the better Mario Kart games. Sorry, say it louder. It's a comment. That's right. It comments out the rest of the phrase, so you end up with that. But but the remainder of the query is ignored because it's now in a comment. So, is 1 equal to 1?
Yes.
What is anything or true? True. Am I using this to check to see if there's a if passwords exist?
Oh, you are.
Yeah, you're basically just bypassing.
Yeah, this is bypassing the login check. That's what this is. Right? So, right? You know all of that like data dictionary stuff that they talk about, right? In the other course. You know how those are like, you can get to those with select queries, you know? Well, you actually don't even really have to worry about like anything past the point of completing this phrase. And by the way, I'm telling all of you this, not so that you go hack a bunch of databases, all right? Do not be evil. This is again defense against the dark arts. We must investigate the dark arts in order to defend against them, all right? So, also it's easy enough to look up how to do this on YouTube. I'm not telling anything new. Let's consider the following. Semicolon.
Oh. Yikes.
Now, if the system has been configured to execute multiple SQL statements in one query, which I don't recommend, what's that going to do?
Bye-bye database.
By database. You can delete the entire database this way, not just the credentials table. Being generous, maybe your organization backs its data up nightly, right? But unless whoever figures out how to do this also figures out how to delete your backups, right? In which case, what you're doing is you're unplugging your hard drives very quickly, running those over to a computer expert who has one of those devices that you can plug a hard drive in and it attempts to recover deleted files and deleted data. This is actually possible. Did you guys know that was possible? Yeah. You want to know why it's possible?
Is it because when you delete something off a hard drive, you're not actually deleting it, you're just marking it as this is space where new stuff can be written. So
Yes.
if you take the hard drive over there quickly, the data that you have allocated as, hey, you can overwrite this now. Maybe it hasn't been overwritten yet, you can get some of it back.
Yes, that's a good description. So it has to do with, it's an efficiency thing. And actually, the operating system does this type of thing all the time with memory. If you simply do the thing everybody thinks deletion is, like overwriting every memory cell with zeros, that takes an amount of time proportional to how much memory you're clearing, right? If you simply mark the file as not being a file anymore, then you don't it's like a one-step operation as opposed to something that's proportional to the size of the thing you're deleting. So it's like, you know how deleting stuff is pretty quick, but moving a file to or from your USB stick is it takes literally forever. That's the reason it's different. When you're moving something, you actually have to copy. You have to go through every cell. Whereas with deletion, it's generally agreed that you don't. And, it's maybe even a good thing that you don't. There are programs you can download, by the way, which they call digital document shredders. Some of you may have heard of these. These are programs that just go into your system's clear memory space and like just overwrite everything with zeros. After that, there is no way to recover the digital document, right? Because I assure you the hacker is not going to be fool enough to leave it hanging around in the recycle bin. Most servers don't even have one. Yeah, it's kind of like related, a related concept is disk defragmentation. People don't usually like really think about disk defragmentation these days. You don't really have to do it if you're running a decent file system such as Linux, the ones that come with Linux. But, and I think it's less of a problem now in Windows than it used to be, but like, it used to be back in the 90s that like, defragmenting your hard drive was a weekly or at least a monthly affair where you basically, you guys know what defragmentation is? Yeah, everybody? Yeah, cool. So yeah, this is a good class. You guys are awesome.
So aren't you not supposed to defrag SSDs?
Yes. Well, the reason you're not supposed to defrag SSDs is because they have a limited they have a limited number of read-write cycles
Yes.
before they break.
Yes.
So you try to avoid like heavily repetitive operations on SSDs because they'll break. And a lot of computers have them instead of magnetic disks these days. So yeah. But it's okay because file systems have improved since the 90s somewhat. So yeah. Any questions? All right. That's called an SQL injection attack. I believe we talked about them like that they're a big deal last time in class, but that's how simple it is to do one. All it takes is not recognizing the control characters in one of those, right? Now, filter special chars is perhaps looking for some of those. Is it looking for all of them? Can you be damn sure that a hacker knows which ones it filters and which ones it doesn't? Right? Security is best when it occurs in multiple layers. This is the reason I want you to filter using filter input and filter the SQL statement in the manner I'm about to show you. Both are required. More layers is better than fewer layers. Okay? Sound good? All right, so let's see how to defend against such petty thievery. And I just want everybody to understand, when you are dealing with a hacker, this is not Hollywood. This hacker does not have a tragic backstory that means he was once good, but turned evil because society hated him. He's just evil. He was born evil, he will die evil, and he will go to hell. This is what hackers are, okay? They are nasty, nasty people who are not to be trusted. So, the way that you defend against this, never, 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 forever, never, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never, splice your variable names directly into a string like this. This is the way that you use the PDO to do this. You replace this with a question mark, an actual literal question mark character, just like that. The execute method will scan for these question marks and replace them with values you provide after having scanned them, after having filtered them. You don't even have to, it's not even that as much work as this. You don't even have to choose what the filter should be. It's just like, oh, yeah, no, I'm just gonna exclude SQL command characters. Done, right? It does make the execute method a little bit more complicated though. So we prepare the statement in the usual way. DBH prepare query. Statement. Execute. Now this is the difference. We provide the values during the as input to the execution method. I should work on my elocution and my execution. We provide the values here instead of splicing them into the strings ourselves. Using question marks sets this up positionally. The first one goes to the first one. The second one goes to the second one in the manner that you would expect. There is another way of doing this, which allows you to name the spots where things will be inserted. We'll cover that a bit later. Let's just get it working. Okay? So, why am I typing? I could just copy paste from the other one. There we go. And now, finally, we have enough to be able to usefully test this program. Username, Mr. Krabs. Password, money. You can see we return count star gets us 1. We have one matching entry. If we do Squidward, everyone's an idiot except for me. Nothing. Actually, having your password as everyone's an idiot except for me isn't as bad a password as you might think. It is somewhat subject to a dictionary attack, but it is a lot of words and it's fairly long, so not as bad a password as you might think. Yes?
I do want to point out that malformed inputs will kind of, it will go off. If, I think it needs to have the query included in there, because otherwise it just kind of goes past it.
What do you mean?
Okay. So if you have invalid inputs and put it in,
Oh,
it'll
yes,
echo
yes,
it,
you're right, you're right,
and then it'll submit it anyway.
Pardon me, yes, I missed a layer.
Yeah.
I missed my exit 0. I missed my exit. Exit, stage right. There we go. Thank you. All right. So we've gotten as far as seeing that count star yields 1 when we have something matching in the database. This is good. This is very good. What do we do if someone logs in successfully? We validate the session. How do we validate the session? We set a variable in it that tells us that the session is valid. If count, asterisk, you could rename that if you wanted to, equals 1, precisely one entry matching it. Then session at validated equals true. Else echo invalid username password combination. So I just want to stop to briefly comment on this error message. So I remember a number of years ago, it was generally like when you attempted to log into something, sometimes it would say, oh, that's a bad password, or, oh, that user doesn't exist, right? You might get either of those two messages. What's the problem with getting either of those two messages?
It gives useful information to someone brute forcing.
Yes, it gives useful information to someone brute forcing. If you deny that a username is a valid username, you can work out what the valid usernames are just by submitting repeated requests. And you can find the usernames of every user in that is registered for that site, right? It's kind of like when we didn't like, we kind of just went for it. We didn't think everything completely through yet. We're going to tighten things up as we go along. Here's a question. Should any constraints be placed on a username?
Sure.
Like what?
Special characters probably would help.
Sure, like let's exclude special, let's restrict our character set. I'll accept that. Not what I'm talking about though. With respect to like the table, like what is something I want to be true of all of the usernames in the database?
They need to be unique.
They absolutely need to be unique,
Do they if it's not their primary key?
even if it's their primary key.
Okay.
Because if you have multiple users logged, like if you have multiple users with the same username, but they have different primary keys, if somebody logs in, right, you're essentially like relying on the
Oh.
password to differentiate between the two of them,
Yeah. that's
which
not-
is a bad idea. So yeah, I'm very comfortable saying every user should have a unique username. Incidentally, I believe Discord does not require usernames to be unique, but the way that it gets around to this is by assigning you a user ID number, which, by the way, can easily be looked up. So if you think you're being clever by giving yourself several usernames on Discord across several different Discords, you actually still have one easily exposable, like, primary key that is like easily accessible from
Yeah,
your
you have
log.
like,
So
you have like display names, and then you have your actual username hidden underneath that.
so you know, just be aware that anonymity doesn't exist on the internet. Although I don't, like, who am I talking to? You guys know that already. So yes, so using a message like this when somebody fails to log in is good security practice. Bad username password combination. We are not confirming that either the username or the password is correct. Now, here's a follow-up question. We perhaps agree that usernames should be unique. What about passwords? Should passwords be unique?
No.
Why not?
Well, for the same reason before, because then you,
If you do set it to be non-unique, record them to be unique, then if somebody guesses that password, they'll know that this password is in use somewhere.
Is that what you were gonna say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, so imagine yourself during a registration operation. Imagine your registration said, like, it's totally valid for the registration to say there is already an account associated with that email address, right? Totally valid. If it said, though, you can't use that password, somebody else is already using it, you'd be like, ooh, I know somebody else's password. And that's probably bad. If you had like a situation where both were true, and you had like, you could like probe for used passwords and you could probe for used usernames, all you'd have to do is find a decent sized chunk of usernames and passwords and then attempt matches between them. And you could brute force it without even having to do an SQL injection attack. Right?
This is actually giving me the heebie-jeebies from some internet forums I used to browse when I was a teenager, where they would have a members list and you could see everyone's username. It's like,
Yeah.
You could show like the bad UX example shorts.
Bad UX example shorts.
It's like you get the wrong one. It's like telling it, no, the correct password for this account is blah.
Oh. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Really? They consider this to be UX? UX UI? I consider it to be like strongly like cybersecurity material, but so it goes. Anyway, so yes. So the question then becomes, what do we do with this information now that we have it? Well, we show one of two pages, right? We either show the login page if we are not logged in, or we show the dashboard page if we are logged in. So, if session at validated both is set and is true, include index.php, which is our login page. Otherwise, include dashboard.php. Now this little bit is a preview of coming attractions. What this is essentially doing, selecting a view. This is something that we will also be doing when it comes to MVC architecture. In theory, this little piece of code should be the same no matter which operation has been called for. It therefore would make sense to put this somewhere else and include or require it in all of the operations, but for the time being, let's just let it mellow. Question?
Isn't the index of dashboard supposed to be fixed since when you log in successfully to the dashboard?
Can you speak up a little?
Isn't the index of dashboard supposed to be flipped? Because when you successfully log in, you get the dashboard, not the login page?
Yes, thank you. That's a manifestation of lack of sleep. I'm being charitable to myself. That assumes I don't make those types of errors regularly, which I totally do. You know, for being a computer programmer, I'm surprisingly bad at keeping true separate from false. You know, I'm sure everybody's been there. So, yes, if we're logged in, we want to see the dashboard. Otherwise, we want to see this guy. So, we should write the dashboard. For the time being, dashboard.php, let's just make that simple. Hi, this is a dashboard. Now, we attempt to log in. Ah! Whoops. Undefined index. Bum, 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 boo. Let's see here. Oh, what was it called? Oh, that was what it was called. This is why you test on XAMPP and not on live server. Yes?
Change threshold of fetch or do data 0 counts.
Oh, yes. Thank you. That's it. Fetch all will drop you into an array of associative arrays. I was treating it as if it were just the associative array itself, but I'm actually looking for the first row. Very good. Thank you very much. Here we go.
Line 28.
No such file.
We don't have an index PHP, we have an index HTML.
Oh, that's probably true, yeah. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Invalid username password combination. Log in. So, yeah. So login correctly fails to log in cases where the credentials are wrong. Let's just make sure that you can actually log in with correct credentials. Aha! No such file or directory found.
PHP.
Oh. Dashboard.php. There you go. Hi, this is a dashboard. There we go. So we have logged in. Very good. Now, a log out button is quite simple. Quite simple indeed. It does, since we're not having to send any information or credentials, we're fine using a GET request for this. We just want a nice little input type equals button. No, not button. Submit. Thank you. Name is equal to, or not name. It's called value is equal to log out. There we go. Now we just need to provide logout.php. Logout.php. So, in the first place, where is the information that we are logged in stored?
Session.
In the session, yes. So what do we first have to connect to? That's right, the session. Ironically, we must start the session to end the session. So, do we recall what the command is to delete everything in the session? Yes. Session unset. Now, this may be an extreme measure in your case for your website. This will destroy everything in the session. Perhaps you only wish to invalidate it. This might also do. But in either event, the only thing that remains now is to select the appropriate view. Now, I'm gonna level with you guys. There is a chance that these operations fail, but I've never seen it. if you failed to connect to the session in the first place, it probably means there are some pretty big server problems going on that are kind of outside of your normal purview as the developer. If you failed to unset the session, this is most likely because you failed to start the session before you tried to unset it. That's the type of situation where session unset would fail, right? So, this is pretty reliable, and I'm comfortable leaving the whole script at these 2 lines plus an appropriate include statement for the view. Which view should we be including? If a person is logged out, should they see the dashboard? Nope, they should see the other one. There we go. Now, we have a logout button. If we click logout, we are logged out. There we go. Any questions? You want to see if we can get inserting new credentials done in the remaining 6 minutes of class?
I get one question regarding the sessions, which is related to the assignment.
Sure.
Does starting a session cause you to transfer packets?
No.
I think in the, okay, because in the assignment, it says like for one of them, like there's no incoming packet data. Or,
Yes, when I say there's no incoming packet data, that means the client is not sending any data with the packet. Right? So that data is expected to be stored in the session. Like I presume you were talking about like the state of the board during Conway? Yeah. Yeah, the state of the Conway board is expected to be stored in the session. So, you know, basically you shouldn't need to resend anything from the client to step the board one step, except I would like you to step the board one step, please. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. All of the data is already in the session.
but we would still need to call the start, set session start to get at it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you still need to connect to the session because
Like it doesn't get, otherwise it would get saved over from like a previous one, even if you like someone.
No, if you failed to connect to the session super global simply wouldn't be defined, so you'd end up with a syntax error. Oh man, I don't know if I've got a 4-minute speed round for the registration end, so maybe we will leave that till next week. At any rate, we have connected to a database. We have explained how login systems generally work. So I'd like to sort of keep the lectures rolling this semester so that we can have a decent amount of time to talk about MVC architecture. So you guys mind if I assign you a couple of YouTube videos to watch as homework?
Is it the computer file stuff?
It's a couple of them.
Okay.
So I would like to assign to all of you as homework, please watch Password Cracking on Computer File and How to Choose a Password, also on Computer File. The first video is a video from almost 10 years ago where basically the guy takes a a bank, like a test bank of passwords, and shows you a Linux program that like just breaks the password encryption. We'll be talking about password hashing next time, but that will set you up well for understanding like what hashing is, right? Although we'll also discuss that in class. And then this should terrify you, all right? This should terrify you. And then this one tells you how to fix all of your bad passwords. So I highly recommend watching this one after that one. This one should scare your pants off, and this one should tell you how to redo all of your passwords. Okay? So, nobody should leave this program with bad passwords. You should all have good passwords, because you should all take these matters seriously by the end of this. Okay? Sound good? Alright. See you in databases.
These passwords can also be a little bit annoying, because I remember one case where I went to a store